Don't forget the random share winner. You're watching Vintage Motocross Q&A, and I am your host, Joe Abadi. Thank you for joining me tonight. I want to thank Jordan, Chelsea, and Susie for help putting the show together. And Jordan, let's get down to the starting line, and I'll tell you a little bit more about what's going on. Starting line is, of course, sponsored by Motion Pro. And the next time try this segment, we're going to be talking about Kydex plastic. In the Moto Showcase, a 1979 YZ 465. And here's the problem segment. We'll be talking a little bit more about seat stencils and spray dyes. What's it worth? The 1978 Husky just went off this week on eBay. Where do you see the price? The 522 project continues. We've got a big upgrade going on tonight. Don't forget to share the show. If you're watching on Facebook, reach down on your phone, or if you're on your computer, share it with your friends. Tell them to come over and watch us at Vintage Motocross Q&A. Also, if you are on YouTube, don't forget, you could share it there too. A little bit later on, we're going to have a random share winner. The winner is going to get some Preston Petty number plates just like this. There'll be a random share giveaway at the end of the show. And also, if you are on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see all the great shows that we've put here at Vintage Motocross Q&A, as well as listen to all the interviews that I've done on Sundays at Vintage Motocross Radio. Once you subscribe, you can also get alerts. A little bell will go off like that. Tells you when we're live on YouTube. I'd like to thank our sponsors, Amsoil, Motion Pro, Full Circle Racing, Vintco, Preston Petty Products, and of course, Nightmare Racing. And the next time try this segment tonight, we're going to be talking a little bit about Kydex plastic. Now, Kydex is really special stuff. It's a great plastic, and you're going to see how in a moment here, we're going to show you a few things that you can do with it. Now, you can use this stuff even to make an airbox if you're that handy. But the great thing about Kydex is how easy it is to work with, how easy it is to cut. Now, if you wanted to make your own plates, whether it's for a mini and you wanted something a little bit smaller, or you wanted a bigger plate, much like this Preston Petty plate I'm working with here, you just do what I'm doing here in the video. You could trace around there with a Sharpie, just trace out whatever it is that you want. Now, the great thing about Kydex is how easy it cuts. You can cut this stuff with an air nibbler. You can probably cut it with a jigsaw with a real fine blade, or you could just use a pair of tin snips like I'm using right here. Another thing I love about it is it doesn't distort, it doesn't crack, it doesn't shred. Nothing happens to it as you cut it. The color doesn't change along the edge, and if you have to take just a little bit off, it's really, really easy to cut with a good sharp pair of shears like I was using right there. Another great thing about it is how easily it sands. If you want to sand that edge down, if you got a little high spot or something is just a little bit uneven, you can just take some 180 grit sandpaper, 150, you can go along that edge and you can get it cleaned up right away. It comes out really nice and smooth. It's also opaque, which means, translucent, which means you could see light come through it, but you won't get a clear image of what's on the other side. It looks really cool on a bike like a YZ250, a 74. Put it on the bike, you can still see the airbox behind it. When you're done, if you want to cut out some vinyl for your background, you can just take a pattern, get some vinyl just like this, and you can cut out your own number plate. In the end, it's very flexible. It looks great on your bike, and it's also really responds to heat very, very well. So if you have something on your bike like a number plate or a longer side panel and you want to kind of mold it in a little bit, with a heat gun, you could really get this stuff to move around and it'll stay in place if you hold it where you want it and you let it cool off. Kydex, you'll find it online. It comes in sheets 2x4, and it also comes in colors as well. I prefer this nice translucent stuff. It's what we usually have on the race bikes. Kydex. Next time, try that. Thanks, Venco. In tonight's Moto Showcase, which is sponsored by Preston Petty, we've got a 1979 YZ 400F that was sent in to us by Joe Anderson. He did make it into a 426 clone OW. As Jordan goes through the slides, I'm going to read to you a little bit about what Joe told me about the bike. It's a 79 YZ that I built for a friend in Orlando. Since I have raced my own 79 400 in vintage, I knew exactly what to do as far as a race bike. The bike started out being well used. The bike was built to be as close to a factory prep racer as possible. The frame was touched up at the welds and it was powder coated, 80% gloss. The engine was rebuilt using a new rod kit. It's got an OW426 piston kit in it. The head was milled. It's got a push button compression release. The cylinder was ported with Boysen transfer tunnels and a V-Force 3 block added. It's got Barnett Kevlar clutch plates. The piston was ceramic coated. It's got a new DG exhaust and an aluminum silencer, a 38 millimeter Electron carb, a K&N filter. The suspension was updated with 82 YZ 43 millimeter forks and Racetech emulators. The rear suspension is a Fox Airshock set up for 12 inches of travel, same as the front. Double leading shoe front brake, fat foot pegs, extended clutch arm. The stock 1 year only gas tank was sealed in the inside and it was painted for the European white and red color. It's got a custom red seat from Thailand. This OW426 clone is easier to ride than the heavier and slower turning YZ 426. Here's all the before and after pictures of that. You are going to be getting stickers from fastguystuff.com. And this segment is now sponsored by Preston Petty Products. Joe Anderson, thank you so much for sending in that beautiful YZ426 to us. Speaking of PrestonPetty.com, 10% off across the board, front fenders, rear fenders, number plates, everything that's available at Preston Petty is still 10% off. And Paul's going to throw in a free t-shirt as well. Inbox me for the code. When you get the code, when you go to checkout, you put it in where it says discount code. You're going to get 10% off everything you order at Preston Petty Products. Paul Stainer, thanks for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. And here's the problem segment, which is sponsored, of course, by Motion Pro. Jordan, what do we got up first? Zach McKay, can you recommend a product to rejuvenate the leather seat cover on my bike? It isn't cracked, just dry, and it feels brittle. Yeah, I can, Zach. I've used this stuff myself. There's actually two products I'd like to talk to you about. The first one is leather conditioner, leather cleaner. This stuff is available from Amazon or on Amazon, and you buy it, it works great. If you want to get down to your auto parts store and buy something that's a little more expensive, but it is a quality product from Meguiar, you could use this Ultimate Leather Balm. That's the kind of stuff you would use on a really expensive car. The leather conditioner and leather cleaner works great too. Now, if you're in horse country and maybe you got a tack shop near where you live, you could always go get some saddle soap, and that's going to help your problem with your seat cover just as well. But these products I've used, and if you got a dry seat like that, you want to get it nice and clean, maybe with some hot soapy water at first, and then rub in that leather conditioner and cleaner. That seat's going to come out like brand new. Thanks, Zach, for the question. I appreciate it. Mitch Brown with another seat question. I bought a seat cover that came with a green logo. How do I remove it, if at all possible? Or do I paint over it carefully with white? Mitch Brown, never paint over leather. In this particular case where you sent me this picture, it does look like someone used paint. And in answer to your question, you use a little lacquer thinner to get it off. Rub gently. You don't want to rub off the black leather dye. If you rub gently, it will come off. After you do that, you want to get a stencil, put it on your seat, and use spray dye, leather and vinyl dye. Don't use paint, okay? It looks just like this. It comes from Duplicolor. There are some other makes as well. Vinyl and fabric dye. That's what you want to use if you're putting any kind of a logo or any kind of graphic on your seat. Thanks for the question, Mitch. Robert Wilhelm, although this is the Here's the Problem segment, I saw something on Facebook this week and I want to share it with you. I asked Robert Wilhelm if I could use it on the show. He agreed, and he's got a really great way of lowering the chain roller on a 1979 Honda CR250. Now, this can be a problem when you guys use aftermarket swing arms or banana swing arms. And what I'm talking about is the chain roller that Jordan's going to highlight for us here, right here in the picture. There it is in that yellow circle. Now with the stock arm, there's plenty of room for the chain to ride through there and still ride on that wheel. But when you put a banana type swing arm on it, or maybe you put longer shocks sometimes, there's not enough room for that chain to ride over that wheel. And you do need that up front to keep things moving smoothly and in line with your countershaft sprocket. So here's what Rob Wilhelm did. He cut the front mount straight down behind the welded nut on the top of that vertical metal. He measured down from the side panel to the center of the roller mounting hole to get a standard position measurement, then bent the bracket down 25.5 millimeters or about 1 inch. He fabricated a little wedge. He welded it in there. There's a little wedge that he made. He welded it in there, and then he finished off everything nice and smoothly. Looks like it's right from the factory, just how you see it. That's a great tip from Robert Wilhelm. A lot of guys run aftermarket swing arms, and that's a great way to be able to use that roller arm there, which you want to do. In this picture from Elderfield Motorcycles, he uses a slide. A slide is nice, but a lot of guys maybe don't have them here. I think that may be a product that is just available from Elderfield. So if you want to keep your chain roller on there, you do what Robert Wilhelm did. You drop that thing down 25.5 millimeters, weld it back up. You'll be able to get that chain roller on there just like came from stock original. Thanks, Robert, for letting me use that in my show tonight. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show. Share it if you're on Facebook. Share it if you're on YouTube. We're going to have a random winner later on. Somebody's going to win a nice brand new set of these beautiful number plates, compliments of Preston Petty products. They are in yellow. Yellow is the only color I have, so that's the color you're going to get. Let's go to a commercial. We'll be right back after that.
Hi, I'm Jeff with Motion Pro, introducing you to the MasterLink Press Tool. Now, the MasterLink Press Tool is an innovative addition to our wide variety of chain tools here at Motion Pro, and what makes this tool so unique is that it both presses on and presses off MasterLink side plates. It's designed to be used with all 50 series clip-style links and performs the job very easily. The MasterLink Press Tool is constructed with a billet aluminum body and hardened steel pins for long-lasting durability. It's affordably priced at $28.99 and is available from your favorite dealers nationwide.
From Motion Pro, another great tool. I love that company. In the What's It Worth segment tonight, we've got a 1978 Husqvarna WR250 that just sold on eBay for just $4,000. Jordan's going to go through the slides a little bit here. I'm going to tell you about the bike. It's nicely restored 78 WR250 with many NOS parts and upgrades. Got a fresh engine, rod and bearings, bore and piston, correctly plated Buffo hardware. All new rubber bits, upgraded 40 millimeter forks and dual leading shoe. Front brake is from an 81 model, nearly unobtainable headlight. Tapered steering bearings, head bearings, retrofit from vintage Husky. It's got an NOS gas tank, and it's from a 79. It's a fully restored reservoir O-rings on there, beautiful sun rims, stainless steel spokes from Buchanan, brand new tires, and UHD tubes. I will sell without the NOS tank for $3,000 with a very good used tank and some paint rubbed off, but otherwise in great shape. This bike sold for $4,000. And it was in absolutely incredible condition. I wouldn't have been surprised if I had seen this bike for sale with a buy it now for about $69.95. There's no way you would have restored that bike. Between the purchase of it and the parts alone, you'd probably be into it for more than $6,000. $4,000 bought this bike. I'll tell you, somebody got a really great deal. And is that what it's worth? It's worth a whole lot more than that as far as I'm concerned. That's the way it went. Now, the Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page on Facebook, which I created almost 6 years ago, he would have known that that bike was worth a whole lot more money and wouldn't have had to leave so much on the table. If you're on Facebook and you're thinking about selling a bike or buying a bike, become a member of Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. All we do there is talk about the price of bikes. Nothing's for sale. There's no haggling. Just a bunch of real nice guys giving you ideas of how much your bike is worth. Vintage Motocross Buyers and Sellers Price Guide page. Welcome to this week's installment of the 522 Project. This segment is, of course, brought to you by Full Circle Racing Limited. Be sure to visit them on Facebook and online at fullcircleracinglimited.com. I also have a special coming up for you from Full Circle in just a moment. This week, we're going to be assembling the top end of the 522 project. I've got all the parts laid out, and I'm ready to go to work on that. Now, I wanted to give you a little update on something. A few weeks ago, I had to turn down the bell of this carburetor to make it fit this accordion air boot. It did fit, but along the way, I made a discovery, and I found that a Suzuki RM100 and 125 fits this carburetor perfectly. I wanted to share that with you in case you're ever going to maybe take on a project like this. The part number is 13881-40210, Suzuki RM100 125. Something else I want to bring to your attention while we're talking about it is the studs that go into the top of your cylinder. These are plated, they're nice and clean. When you go to put them back in, they should be able to be installed by hand. There shouldn't be anything dragging, nothing getting in the way, no sand or anything you may have used to bead blast your cylinder with. Everything should go together nice and smoothly in the event of anything. And there's a little bit of the stud giving you a problem putting it in, you're going to put it in with one of these stud removal tools. Be sure that you grab it down by the shank, not up by the threads. You can just put it on there and by hand, just like I'm doing right here, you could turn that stud down. It's going to be as happy as could be. Something else I wanted to share with you is torquing. They don't have to be torqued. They have to be tight. Torque is involved when you're going to put the head on, when you have to have things evenly torqued, not for cylinder studs like this. Another thing is people often ask is, do you need to either put Loctite on them or never sees? You don't need to do either. It's an aluminum cylinder, and these studs are steel. They're going to be hard enough to get out somewhere down the road as it is, and I wouldn't recommend using anti-seize either. Once you put that head on there and you have your nuts on there and that's all torqued, that's what's going to keep it all nice and tight. So, I've got everything ready to go. Let's get a close-up of the bike, and I'm going to start putting this thing together. Everything was real tidy on this bike because I've been working on it for a while now. So I took my brand new piston and I used a little oil, compliments of Russell Waters and Amsoil. And I put my rings on. I did check the end gap of these rings before I put it together. I did take them back off after checking it and wanted to reinstall them just for this video. For some reason, I thought it was a good idea to slip the ring over the bottom of the piston. I don't know why I did that, but it wasn't a good idea. I slipped it off and I put it over the top. We've got a wrist pin bearing going in right there. Everything was new there. Everything fit nice and tidy, nice and smooth. I put the C-clip on one side of the piston. This way when I put the piston on, I could just slip my pin through and it's going to go up tight against the other side. And on the side I'm working on, I could put in that C-clip. Little WD-40 on there just to wipe off some of the fingerprints and a little dust that may have gone on there while I was working. I took out some of those nice clean shop towels I had down there in the bottom end to keep everything out. I used a little more Amsoil inside that cylinder. And as you could see, everything went together really nice and smoothly. And don't forget, those studs were all moved in that bottom end in order to get that 1980 cylinder to fit on there. Now, I proceeded, for some reason, to put regular nuts over these studs that were on the bottom. Not supposed to have those nuts. I think a little later on in the video, you're going to see the actual nuts that should be used in that application. I didn't do any torquing for the sake of time in the video. I just wanted to get everything nice and tidy so everybody could see what it looked like. I was really happy, of course, with the way that reed valve sits too. It sits nice and straight on the back of that cylinder, and you're going to see in just a moment how well that carb sits on there. Everything went smoothly, nothing hanging up on the porch for the rings, and everything's looking the way it should. I slipped the head on there, and these were the nuts I was talking about a little bit earlier. It should have had these flange nuts on there, not just a regular nut with a flat washer and a lock washer on it. These are the washers I used on the top. Of course, I will be torquing that head a little bit later. I got the 4 head nuts on, and that is a 1974 head. Okay, so that's a 77 bottom end, an 80 cylinder, and a 74 head. which would replicate the head on the RC-125. I found, or had, the three correct clamps for the back of the air boot, where the air boot connects to the carburetor, and also where the carburetor connects to the intake.
Well, that's it for this week's segment of the 522 project. I hope you enjoyed that. The top end is on. It was a little more complicated to put the carburetor on than I had thought. The original accordion air boot that I told you about in the beginning of the show, that Suzuki air boot didn't work. I had to use the accordion one that we talked about a few weeks ago. But we're all together. Everything looks the way it should. And I want to thank you for joining us tonight for this segment of the 522 project, which is brought to you, of course, by Full Circle Racing Limited. Thanks, Tom McAllister, for all you do.
Special this week at Full Circle Racing. Free shipping on spokes and rims. They're available for most Hondas, Yamahas, Suzuki's, Kawasaki CZs, Husqvarnas, and Makos. Be sure to mention to Tom McAllister that you have seen this on the show. Mention that, and you're going to get free shipping from Full Circle Racing. Thanks, Tom.
I love when I find modern technology and a classic look in a modern product. And this right here gives me both. It's a fuel filter and it's made by GIS Products. But this isn't like any other filter I've ever seen. It's constructed of 304 pleated stainless steel. And what I love about it most is you can take it apart and the element is washable and reusable indefinitely. Another great thing about it is for you vintage guys who have steel tanks or may have had tanks that have a delaminated liner, this is the filter you want to use. No matter what you do on those tanks, you never get out everything. This filter is going to protect you along the way. It's also great for fuel-injected bikes and minis. Now, speaking of fuel-injected bikes, this little filter right here is good for up to 200 PSI. Your fuel-injected bike guys, you run at about 40 to 60 PSI. So you got that going for you too. As I said, it's made in the USA, it's patent pending, and it's available for just $64.99. It's the last filter you're ever going to buy. Go online, check them out at golanproducts.com. Thanks, Golan Products.
I want to say a little bit something more about that Golan product filter. They're also used by Slavin Racing and Rottweiler, two really big racing teams that use that Golan filter. Something else I want to say, and I don't really want to speak out of turn, but I can tell you this. That filter is of such high quality. You're going to be seeing that on a major manufacturer's bike in the very near future. It's going to be a standard item on a major manufacturer's motocross bike in the very, very near future. I want to thank Golan Products, Golan Industries. Thanks for all you do for us here at Vintage Motocross Q&A. In the product spotlight tonight, we've got another great product from Vinco. What is it? Mako gaskets, 1978 to 81 250, 78 to 81 400, 78 to 81 440, 78 through 80, and the mighty 490 of 1981. Vinco has all new engine gasket kits to help your engine and lower end rebuild. These gaskets are made of modern materials and manufacturing techniques to ensure an as good or better fit than OEM. $29.95 gasket kit for your Mako from Vinco. Keep the ride going. We're going to take a commercial break. Don't forget to keep sharing the show on Facebook and on YouTube. When we get back, we are going to have a winner of the Preston Petty number plates. Jordan, let's get a look at the commercial. We'll be right back after that.
Classic and vintage dirt bikes are more than a hobby. It's not just about the ride. It's about the work that goes in. The work that keeps you connected to the ride. It's about bringing the bike back to life and doing it with your own hands. It's about the adrenaline and adventure. And when it comes to putting all the pieces together, only Vinco knows the bikes and parts the way you do. Vinco. Keep the ride going.
Don't forget to visit Vinco at vinco.com. Our random share winner is Bob Demuth. Bob Demuth, D-E-M-U-T-H. Bob, thank you for sharing the show tonight. We got a gift for you, compliments of Preston Petty products. It's these 3 great Preston Petty number plates, brand new in the wrapper. You can't beat that. Make sure you get Susie your address, and we'll get these in the mail to you as soon as tomorrow. Bob Demuth, thanks for sharing the show. This week in motocross history is, of course, brought to you by Nightmare Racing, the best reproduction Kawasaki plastic on the planet. In 1974, it was Roger DeCoster at Lake Whitney in one of the muddiest races in history. Walsing took second place that day. If you get an opportunity to either see a video or some still pictures of this race from Lake Whitney in 1974, you will not believe the mud. You will not believe the mud and what these guys went through that day. What Roger, of course, was victorious. In 1988, this is a really exciting piece of history right here. It was 16-year-old Damon Bradshaw who won the Osaka Supercross in Japan over reigning AMA Supercross champion Rick Johnson, who was on a Honda. It was the first professional Supercross race ever for Yamaha's prodigy Bradshaw. The beast from the East, Damon Bradshaw, wrapping it up that day in 1988 on that Yamaha. He was all over the place after that. PJ1 was grabbing articles about him, and it was just a phenomenal thing. And, you know, to beat Ricky Johnson, too, on your first time out there, Damon Bradshaw, congratulations on that win that day. Nightmare Racing, as I was just talking about just a little while ago. The finest reproduction Kawasaki plastic on the planet from the early 70s into the mid-80s. Mark Hildebrand's got it all. Front fenders, back fenders, side plates. He's also got some other great things over there, including some translucent number plates, as well as some great stickers. Mark's got a great website. He's got a fantastic collection of works bikes, and he's got all these great plastic for you available at any time. So get a hold of Mark Hildebrand, tell him you saw it on the show here, and get yourself some KX plastic. It's the only plastic that we use on our restorations. Thank you, Mark Hildebrand and Nightmare Racing. And the announcements tonight, Jordan, what do we have coming up first? Oh, Gary Chaplin was my guest this weekend on Vintage Motocross Radio. We spent nearly 2 hours having a chat, and Jordan's got a soundbite here for you. Jordan, let's see what it sounds like.
I had a real good race at Unadilla. I thought I was going to win the second moto. I had 30 seconds, I think, on Nicola and Falta and Tripes, and I tipped over like around the 30-minute mark, high-sided, hitting a rock, and they pretty much caught me by the time I got my bike picked up and restarted. And I think I raced with them and finished fourth. But just a side note, I got to throw this in.
Yeah, please.
I'll never forget Don Jones, you know, Gary Jones' father.
Sure.
He always seemed to take a liking to me. I don't know, just because, you know, I respected him, and I was pretty good friends with Brad Lackey, and him and Gary didn't get along because they were always, you know, banging each other, going for the win. But I don't know, Don was really gung-ho American and wanted to see us win the Europeans. And he was out there jumping up and down every lap I went by in Unadilla when I had a big lead. And I'll just never forget that. You know, somebody racing on another team, Gary was on the Honda at the time, I was in the Mako, and his dad out there jumping up and down. So anyway, that was pretty cool.
I love talking to Gary Chaplin this weekend. It was such a fun interview. If you haven't listened to it, please go over to Vintage Motocross Radio and spend some time listening to that Gary Chaplin interview. This weekend, Whole Shot, Donnie Hansen will be my guest at 11 o'clock on Sunday morning. We'll be talking about his time on the Donations team, his Supercross, as well as motocross victories, and so much more. And I want to learn a whole lot more about Donnie's schools and what he's up to these days. So this Sunday at 11 a.m., Donnie Hansen. In 2 weeks, Tommy Croft, Tomahawk, will be my guest on November 22nd. But this weekend, Donnie Hansen.
You've been hearing me talk about this bike on the show for a couple of weeks now, 1983 Honda CR250, and we are giving it away. If you want to get involved in the raffle, there's nothing to purchase, nothing to buy. Just go onto your email and email us at vmxqalive@gmail.com. You'll have an opportunity to win this bike. We're giving it away on the show December 23rd, 2020.
Congratulations to Rocket Rex Staten. He was inducted into the Glen Helen Walk of Fame last week. That was, of course, during the the Vet Championship race at Glen Helen, where it is every year. Rex, of course, a fixture in Southern California motocross, probably one of the early pioneers. Well, not probably, he certainly was. And of course, had that amazing day at the 1975 USGP. He won at Daytona, did so many wonderful things throughout his career. And Rex Dayton certainly deserved to be on the Walk of Fame at Glen Helen. Congratulations to the Rocket. December 20th, that's a Sunday. Tammy Greenhill and Raffle putting on another great race on the truck track at Glen Helen. It is an old school scrambles race group. They put on a great show there every year, or they do a couple of great races there throughout the season. Now, you can get down there. It's on Sunday. It's just about 4 days before Christmas. But Tammy and Ralph put on a great race. They've got a class for everybody, and I believe kids ride free. So go see Tammy and Ralph Greenhill at Green Helen. I'm sorry, Tammy and Ralph Greenhill at Glen Helen. The old school scrambles racing group. Vintage Motocross Q&A T-shirts are still available. Small, medium, large, and extra large is $21.99. You can follow the link in the description. You can get yourself a couple of shirts. Christmas is just around the corner. Get over there, order a couple of shirts for you, someone you love. Vintage Motocross Q&A sponsorship opportunities are still available. Now, if you look behind me, you can see all the people that are on board with us, from Motion Pro to Amsoil, Vinco, Nightmare, Full Circle Racing. Been getting support from Woody's GP products as well as FastGuyStuff.com. I've still got more room. I got a whole wall on the other side of the shop, and I am more than willing to fill it up with your name. So get a hold of me, inbox me. I'll get your email address, or you can call me. I'm not that difficult to find. I'll get you a sponsorship proposal package. We'll put something together that fits your budget. We'll get you on a sponsorship program here on Vintage Motocross Q&A. I don't think I gave the slide to Jordan, but this week we had another record. We reached over 30,000 people since last Wednesday. Last Wednesday's show, for some reason, I don't know what it was, between the sharing and a few other things, we hit over 10,000 people in one day. Over the whole week, 30,000. The word's getting out there. I made another video today that is available on the page. It talked about people sharing it, getting administrators from other groups involved, and people sharing it in their groups. So it'd be a good time for you to get a sponsorship proposal package. We're going to keep going wide open as long as we can. We're going to make the show grow. We're expecting to see some big things in the new year. I'll be telling you about them when the time comes. Get a sponsorship proposal package, guys. Now's the time. That's it for our show this evening. I want to thank everyone who tuned in to Vintage Motocross Q&A. Don't forget the Sunday show, Vintage Motocross Radio, where my guest will be Holeshot Donnie Hansen. Thank you all for watching. And don't forget, share the show on Facebook, on YouTube, share it in your groups. And if you're an administrator, please consider putting it up on your page that this show is available for everyone. Have a good week, everyone. Gino? Gino? Come on, Gino!